Good morning, everybody. It's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosa, and today I'm here on the Victoria Real Estate Show with...
Hi, everybody. It's Andrew Plank with Royal LePage. How is everybody today?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good. I am really good. We're playing a little catch up today. I think we're just a little late getting started. We apologize. We're having fun. As usual. Mondays, you know.
My assistant's away, so I'm doing extra stuff. Okay. So how was your week?
Good week. I've got 3 closings this week, so that's good. I get to give keys to people, which is always happiness. I'm going to be out this afternoon for building inspection and trying to get some folks into townhouse or house, but probably townhouse. But they've got a place to sell, so we're asking around of the agents, the places that they like. Would you consider a subject to sale?
What are they saying?
So far, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. We still haven't hit that point in the market where people, I think, are willing to wait for that. So we may have to just go ahead and list their place.
I always tell people it's kind of like having a foot on the gas and on the brake at the same time. So you're kind of like, ooh,
when you're in that situation.
Yeah, because hesitation comes from not knowing what your place is worth, and then trying to figure out what your purchase power is.
Yeah, well, you're trying to do something, and yet you don't have your home sold, so it is difficult to sort of manage both of those sides. But
so in a subject to sale is very common in a less quick market,
in a buyer's market.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's easy to move up.
Well, let's look and see what the stats say for us. I'm going to add this to the stream.
Thank you.
So
I'll take the top, you take the bottom. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, so the top one here from the Victoria Real Estate Board, we have so far, we are at the end of the month of May. We have, for May 2022, we've had 694 unconditional sales posted. Compare that to last year, 2021 May, 1,049. So we actually definitely are lower for sales this month than we were in May of last year. New listings coming on market, 1,440 as opposed to 1,333. So nice round numbers there. I like those. And then for active listings, we've inverted. We had in the past been talking about active listings where the past year always had more than this year. We were kind of low, but now we've got 1,782 active listings compared to last year. There were 1,450 in May.
Right. So net unconditional sales are sales that have gone pending and they haven't completed yet. This shows a very present day take on the market. So we're looking at 70% compared to last year. Actually, less than 70%. So net new listings in the past week, 326 compared to 136 pending. So again, the number of listings coming on is over the number of listings that have sold over the past few months. Prior to this, especially in March, we were seeing list to sale ratio of 1-to-1, and price decreases have increased to 109. Last year I think they were around like 20 or 11. So this is telling you that I think what's happening is sellers are wanting a lot more money. They're realizing the market is going down. It's really time to list sharply, get ahead of that market, and so that you get a lot of interest. And then the number of completions are sold in the past week is 201. 18 have expired and 4 have withdrawn.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to what you were saying, in a market where prices are rising and you have a lot more leeway to make, to list your home at a price that might be a little bit optimistic, because if prices continue to rise, it's going to meet your price. But if you don't have a really sharp pencil when the market is, stable or maybe a little bit on the downside, you're just going to sit there above market value as the market stays always below your price. So until the market actually comes up to meet it, you have to be really careful in a market that looks like it might be shifting. And we don't really know. It's still early days. There's been some changes. There's a lot going on. How long is this going to? Is this the writing on the wall for the market, or are we going to see some sort of resurgence at some point? It's still possible.
That's true, but I think there's no harm, especially if you're going to do delayed offers. And just like what I say is like, we're not looking at offers on a certain time, but we're looking at them after a few days. Let's give people a chance to see this place. I remember in 2007, people were racing to listings and writing that day.
Yeah.
Now at least we have the culture is that you have time to look. So,
So yeah, what Jane's alluding to is in 2007, very few people were listing a home and then looking at offers later. So a home would list and it would be available, and so there'd be a flock of buyers saying, "I better get in here soon, or it's going to be sold that day."
yeah.
Whereas
Well,
now
they
you
get an
often have,
offer. They get an offer back
yeah,
then.
yeah,
Okay, so we're just going to be talking. The government is a little behind what's been going on with the market, and
yeah. I
so
love this. This is really fun. They're bringing in a cooling off period, as just as things appear to be cooling.
well, who knows if they're going to do it, but maybe it'll change behavior in the future. I don't know.
So what happened here is the government had put out has done a study and are taking advice, and they've actually already put into legislation um, the provisions for a cooling off period, but no details. So they've just sort of created blank legislature, and this will fill in the blanks later. And so now the advice has come out, and so based on this advice, we may be seeing in future days some sort of legislation,
Right. Okay.
additional details.
And we're gonna just go through the slide, and then Andrew has a summary slide at the end that is going to show everything in sort of a clear picture. But we're going to discuss point by point, right?
Yeah, and then we can do that, and then maybe we'll talk about what we sort of see as realistic and the pros and cons of this kind of thing, like what could actually result from this.
Right. Okay. So the first one is
The advice is, yeah,
provide 3 clear business days beginning on the day after the seller accepts the buyer's offer to purchase for the buyer to exercise their right to cool off. So after you write your offer, if you write it on a Friday, you have Saturday, Sunday, Monday to then decide if you actually really want it or not.
we currently have this for new construction. If you're making an offer on a new condo or a townhouse or house, if there's a developer's disclosure statement, you make this offer, you have a 7-day right of rescission, and it's essentially completely no holds barred, get out of jail free. You can walk away from this within 7 days, regardless of what due diligence you do. That's the current system for new construction. But for resale homes, this is the recommendation. So, and they're saying it can't be waivable. They're looking at some exemptions, but they're saying that you can't contract out of this this exception period, because otherwise you would still see people saying, well, I'll just buy it unconditionally and I'll waive this exemption period because it makes my offer more attractive.
Right. And some people may do that. No, the way they'll do that is they will not waive that, but they'll have, I think, a deposit,
Yeah.
which will
Perhaps
be
put
a
in a
non-refundable.
non-refundable. Yeah, yeah. And that's
Okay.
deposits can be they're refundable until the point where you've removed your conditions. If you're putting a deposit up front with conditions and during this waiver period, or sorry, this
Conditional period.
cooling off period, if you make it non-refundable, it means it goes into the pockets of the seller regardless of whether you move forward or not. And that could be attractive. And we haven't seen that that looks like a workaround that, based on what we're seeing here, is possible.
There's always going to be another way to play the game.
Yeah.
Okay, exemptions. Provide for narrow exemptions to the cooling off period based on characteristics of the sale process. At minimum, exemptions should include court-ordered sales, sales by auction, sales where a buyer has previously made an offer on the same property.
And I think they mean sales by auction in a true auction situation, because we could, as realtors, in theory, kind of hold an auction type sale. And I don't think the intention is that would be the case.
Well, they also have them, like, if you haven't paid your taxes.
Right, the tax sales, the auction tax sales, yeah, from the municipalities, true.
Okay, termination fee.
Yeah, this is interesting to me.
To prevent frivolous offers,
Mhm,
establish a modest termination fee, for example, 0.1 to 0.5% of the
mhm.
purchase price paid by buyers who exercise their right to cool off. Consideration could also be given by creating exemptions from the termination fee where buyers exercise their right to cool off can demonstrate that they have completed due diligence activities during the cooling off period. So that means they're
This is
trying to
net.
prevent people from writing on multiple properties.
I understand the intention of a termination fee because, without that, you could write 3 to 5 offers or more on properties that, look all kind of okay to you. Currently in the current regime, if there's a property you're kind of interested in, but there's one you really like looking at offers the day after, you might hold off on making an offer on that one you were kind of interested in because you want to go for the one you really like. But you don't know if you're going to get the one you really like because there's a lot of other people who might really like it too. Yeah. So in this case, there's going to be a lot more people making offers just in case. And so there's got to be you got to pay to play, is I think what they're saying.
So, and to tie in with that, they're also saying if people do that, that they have to disclose to sellers if they have any other active offers on other properties,
Right.
which I think is interesting. I was wondering, is it actually established in our rules that they aren't allowed to write more than one offer? Because I just tell my clients you can't do that.
Uh, well, you do it because no, you can. I mean, certainly, if you have, I have $2 million in my pocket and I want to buy two $800,000 townhouses, I can do that.
I know,
Um,
you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. No, I know what you're saying, and it's when we tell our clients, we definitely discourage. I don't want my clients making frivolous offers or doing that either. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
um,
think it just goes against the code of ethics
it
because
does.
it means you're not going to follow through on your due diligence, and this is why they're saying.
But that code of ethics applies to us as realtors. It doesn't apply to the buyers, which is where we get often into hot water and people get confused and blame realtors for bad actions of their clients.
I don't know many realtors who do that. I know one who's done it in all of the years that I've been in real estate.
We may be talking about the same situation too, back when we were both in the same brokerage and there was an agent who did that, and got in some trouble. But but at the same time, I have seen it. I've seen it more than that, but anecdotally as well. Anyway,
Oh,
besides, I want to go back to number 3, that termination fee, because I want to say, man, this is going to get confusing because there's going to be, who enforces this, who collects it, how, if there's an argument about whether somebody did their due diligence activities or not, how do you know if it's waived or not? And who is it payable to? Does it go to the seller or does it go to the government? Because the government would probably love that.
I think it goes to the seller.
I think so too, but I think the government might look at this differently. We haven't seen this yet in actual, this isn't actually enacted in law. So who knows where this will go?
So I'm just thinking that could be, I don't know, $500 on a
Yeah, well,
$1,000,000
500 on a
property.
$1 million property if they're 0.5%. Yeah.
Okay, access to property. Establish an explicit requirement for sellers to provide reasonable access to the property for professionals engaged by or on behalf of the buyer to perform due diligence inspections. So, where this is coming up actually is uh, previously we used to write offers and we would say, have 7 days for an inspection or whatever in a regular offer. But when you started to go with unconditional offers, we had to start writing in the contract that the
Access
sellers would
for,
provide access. And the reason for that is because, especially for inspections or insurance, often insurance or appraisals, we needed to get access.
appraisal is one of the big ones. And if it's not written in there and somebody brings an unconditional offer to a seller and then there's an appraiser knocking on the door the next day, the seller may decide, I don't want to let this person in. And a lot of buyers make offers that are not subject to financing and yet they do require financing. and they don't even realize perhaps that an appraiser is going to need access. If you've made an offer that's unconditional, then you shouldn't actually be needing to provide access to an inspector.
No, true. But the thing is what buyers don't realize, and what agents didn't realize initially, was that we couldn't get insurance on a property if you didn't know things like the age of the hot water tank, how the condition of the roof was, or what the type of piping was
Right.
for plumbing.
And there are situations too where a seller actually wants out of the contract, and they've got somebody better lined up behind after the fact. And so they may be uncooperative. And so we do need to put some either legislated or contractual terms in there to support your buyers.
And I'm all for that for 2 visits. Okay. Require sellers to provide a prescribed property disclosure. We do have a prescribed property disclosure. It is not the same in every board. I do find we're a little more litigious than other boards that way.
How do you mean? Who's litigious on?
Our board is
more detailed.
We're more detailed.
Okay.
Yes. And a lot of buyers, when a property disclosure is not filled out, they often feel like the seller's trying to hide something, because it really is a case of buyer beware. It is a courtesy. It's not a requirement that a property disclosure statement be filled out, but I do agree that it gives a buyer peace of mind.
It's a funny one, because our board requires that a disclosure form be uploaded into the listing documents. Doesn't require that it be filled out. So often they're just crossed off and initialed by the seller without detail. And that's often the case if the seller isn't familiar with the property they're selling, an estate property, or perhaps long-time tenanted property that they haven't actually been able to step foot in much. Or I kind of take a little bit of, I argue a little bit that, if you own a tenanted property, you should know what you're selling, but I can understand the estate thing. I want to circle back here. The top line here, right under additional measures, unconditional offers. This is advice. This is not yet in law.
Yeah, and I just want to say it's not often that they're not filled out. Even if you have a seller who's diligent, they'll fill out the disclosure statement. They'll want to fill it out.
Mm-hmm. So, but the government is now saying that they're going to require it, and it's going to be a prescribed form. So that may change what we do or what our forms look like.
The the Financial Services Authority, this is a recommendation to government.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they're also saying that it be incorporated into the contract of purchase and sale. I know for
pretty common practice.
Yeah.
For us. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Consider providing exemptions or making specific sections of the property disclosure for certain sellers or situations such as foreclosure or court-ordered sales. Newly constructed property has never been occupied. Sellers with cognitive impairments, government transfers, properties that pose health and safety risks where demolition is intended, that they don't have to fill one out. Mm-hmm. And that they all contain standard or optional clauses related to financing, home inspection, insurance, and legal advice. So this is what we were talking about, that in our board specifically, many people have been putting this in anyway.
Yeah, so a contract can be just like, here's the price, here's the date it closes, deposit perhaps, let's go. And that doesn't add a lot of terms that say, and if someone wants to write an unconditional contract, they can certainly do that. What we tend to do in our practice, Jane and I, and also across the board in Victoria Real Estate Board, is there's an additional form that includes some very standard conditions. And we include that in the contract, even if our clients or buyers intend to waive them all. We will cross them off and have the buyers initial it. That way it's clear that everyone understands what they are giving up in terms of their rights.
Yeah, and when I work with agents who are living and working up island in the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board, they have a different contract than we do, and they do not have an addendum one like we do, which has a checklist for buyers for all the terms and conditions that buyers should be aware of, like oil in the oil tank
Yep.
stays, and people should make themselves satisfied as to the GST and all of that.
I mean, we have, in a sense, our real estate board has provided realtors with more
Templated.
standards to cover us, whereas the upper boards in Vancouver are more buyer beware when it comes to for the actual realtor. You got to come up with your own standard wording, and if you don't, you might get yourself in some trouble. Whereas we've got a little bit more, we've got a better sort of base system, I'd say. I like it.
We have a prescribed contract we need to use.
Yeah.
And that being said, when I'm on the listing side and um, a I have received 2 contracts or 3 contracts for purchase and sale,
Hmm.
and one is very simple, and the
Hmm.
other one is you will, here's one I got the other day. You will hire 2 cleaners for 4 hours to clean this house. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Uh, no."
Well, all things being equal, yeah, I mean, it comes down to money, and then money relative to how much pain and suffering is being asked of the seller to deal with things like that.
The other thing is for something like that, you're putting the onus on the seller, and it's based on the performance of a third party person, a cleaner. So I really, yes, you can provide 2 cleaners for 4 hours, but whether or not they're gonna do a good job is different.
Well, yeah, so if I'm wearing the hat of the buyer's agent making that offer, I don't know that I want to put it into the seller's control as to who they hire to have the cleaning done.
Yeah,
So, but I may want to ask for access because maybe the place is an absolute sty. And the problem is you risk insulting the seller, and you do complicate the offer. So the conversation I might have with the buyers is, look, are you willing to maybe move in a day later and hire your own
cleaner.
cleaners, have control of this, and just adjust your offer price accordingly. That's going to be the simpler, cleaner offer where you have more control. But if
Yeah,
they don't want to do that, then you write what your
yeah,
clients
don't
want.
include that cleaning clause, people. Okay.
Yeah.
Minimum time on market. Now, uh, in Victoria, we've actually been doing this.
Not as a requirement, but it's been a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're advising the government to implement a pre-offer period minimum time of market of 5 business days in
Mm.
combination with a cooling off period to provide adequate time for prospective buyers to perform due diligence on properties and prevent the practice of bully offers. And I don't know if it's going to prevent the practice of bully offers, but it does certainly give everybody time to do their due diligence. And, frankly, if 2 people come and one has done an inspection and one hasn't, and they're otherwise offering the same offer, we're gonna want to go with the one that's done the pre-inspection because they've gone in with the offer with their eyes wide open. Because it's not
Sure.
what you know, it's when you find it out.
Sure. It does mean though that it still puts the chance that buyers are going to be spending money unnecessarily. Let's say 3 different buyers do a building inspection in that 5-day pre-period before they can even make an offer. That's 2 that are going to lose out on the cost of an inspection because you can't sell it 3 times.
I do know of
So,
an inspector, though, who's only charging if you don't get your
so there's,
offer.
so there's ways to moderate that, but it's still a chance. This one, if this 5, and it will stop bully offers because of course this is going to be prescribed and you can't make an offer before that 5-day period if this is what they truly bring into case. A bully offer is someone who's making an offer before the date set for everyone to fairly look at offers. Somebody's bringing an offer that says, let's go. This is way more attractive and better than you're probably going to get on offer day. And I just want to make this happen and I don't want to wait. So look at it now.
Yeah.
Um,
And that being said, sometimes you see more in the like, you'll see more money in the bully offer than you will on the offer date because maybe so in a bully offer, the seller has control and the buyer's trying to push it. And on the day of offers, if nobody else comes in and a buyer comes in, the buyer can lower the price.
there's a gamble in making a bully offer if you're the only person coming to the table. But for certain properties, you just know it's going to be well above that. You think not?
I know
Um,
in one case for me, it wasn't.
yeah.
Twice.
I want to go back a step and just say that, this 5 day, if they bring in the 5 day period, people still need to get their financing in order. There's going to be a lot more pressure, I think, on the lenders, because a 5 day period to begin with, and then the 3 day cooling off period, you've got 8 days there. But lenders, if without that 5 day period, lenders will not be able to do much work in a 3 day window. It's going to be a lot of pressure on them. So we're still going to be seeing a lot of offers subject to financing. And this is where I don't understand that fee, because the fee to get out of it with that 5 day, 3 day right of rescission period, because now you're being punished with a fee for doing your due diligence. And I know that they're saying that, if you can show you did your due diligence, or you couldn't get your financing, but the way our offers are written is fairly subjective, and you can't really say whether it's a pass fail for financing. I mean, you can in one sense, but in another sense, you can't. You could go for a traditional lender and nobody's going to lend to you, but you could go to a B lender and get the money. But then you're paying a much higher fee. And at what point, it's very subjective to say, I could or I couldn't get financing. It's not a yes, no, on, off question.
Yeah.
I could get the financing, but it would financially ruin me.
Yes, it might, but it might not make sense.
Yeah. So at what point do you get to waive that fee? What point is the argument for that? I don't understand how they're going to be able to fit that in a box where it's really clear.
Okay. So this is also something that's commonly done now. And this is an example of people following best practice of other realtors in their board. For
Hey,
us,
yeah, if you can't, what is it? Copying is the best form of
imitation is the best
imitation.
form of flattery.
Yeah, I mean, we're always stealing from our colleagues when, oh, that's a good idea. I haven't seen that before. Let's do that. That's really good. That's really good service, or that's a really good piece of information that they're providing.
So I operate under the adage that if you give somebody information up front, you reduce the barriers they need to make the offer, and then you give them enhanced comfort with making an offer. So provide everything you possibly can upfront. So what they're saying,
Reduce and lower as many hurdles as possible.
yeah.
The more there are, the less buyers are going to make it to the end, to the finish line.
I remember having this discussion with another realtor when I got into real estate, and she's like, "Well, I want to know who's getting what." Well, put a Bitly link on it, and then you'll see how you can track how many people are looking at this information. So what they're asking to be required is that the Form B and all the strata corporation bylaws and also minutes for the past 2 years be provided to buyers before they make offers. And this just means that the listing realtor has to be a little more organized. And also, I will
And the
say,
seller.
no, the listing realtor.
No, the seller too. They come to you. How many times have you had somebody come to you and say, I want to list my house tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. But you have to get the documentation from the source, which is the Strata Corporation. And I will say
Takes
that
time.
we are finding they're not that organized
Yeah,
sometimes.
it can take time, and a Form B can take.
5
I mean, there's
days.
prescribed requirements, times on receiving it, and you can request a rush. But anyway, these things take time, and sometimes they send you the package after that time period, and then you find that there's something still missing.
Right.
So
Like
this is difficult to manage, is what I'm saying.
like the litigation.
Hmm.
Okay. Alternatives to blind bidding. Further explore open bid or open end auction formats used in Scandinavian countries to increase transparency during the offer process. Exploration should include additional research to identify the implications of open bid, open end auction formats,
I
and
would
real
I
time
would
disclosure.
offer. I just want to say to the government, if you want someone to explore that and send me to a Scandinavian country to do some research, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Offer real time disclosure of offers. Provide real time disclosure of offers on sale prices and housing affordability.
Okay.
As a measure to enhance transparency, consider implementing a disclosure in multiple offer situations where buyers Prospective buyers are asked to compete directly against another buyer's offer following an initial round, that is during a bidding war. So what that means is you call up the other agents and you say, there's another offer. Would you like to increase your offer by $10,000? And this is called a referential offer. And in these situations, an anonymized disclosure of the number of legitimate offers, we do that anyway. I do that anyway. And the price of competing offers could be provided to the prospective purchaser on an invitation to submit a second offer or counteroffer from a seller that is intended to solicit a higher price in the reference to a competing offer. So
I'm
you have,
confused.
you have 5 offers and 2 are close. And the agents have said, if another offer comes in, can you give me a call?
Right.
So you call the agent A, I guess, and you say, okay, you and another offer are very close. Would you like to increase your offer? And then you don't necessarily have to say what the other offer is, but you can give them the opportunity. Just understand, they both could then walk away.
Yeah, this is the thing where I think that whole idea of the dog with the bone, seeing a bigger bone, trying to get it, it's just the reflection in the water loses it in both. The more complicated this gets and the more back and forth required, the more chance of people saying, I'm out. And, you might have, we've all seen offers evaporate into the ether, especially when people begin to feel like they're being played a little too much or they just don't like the game. And this looks, again, overly complicated, but we'll see how it comes out.
So what I have found in the past, because what I do is I say to the seller, here are the options. And I have agents who say to me, are you the type of agent that's going to call me if I'm close?
Mhm.
Are you and I'm like, this is up to the seller to decide how they want to
Yeah,
handle
I'm
the
the
offer.
type of agent who goes to my seller for instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I say to my seller, here's the risk.
yeah.
Here's a pro. Here's a con and here's a pro. So the pro is, yes, we can get it up. And, I have done that where a buyer agent was so motivated and they gave me a referential offer and I called them up and I'm like, I don't like referential offers, but my seller has decided to ask you what you want to do. Here's the other offer. We provided a redacted uh, copy of the first page, so none of the personal information was showing,
Mhm.
and except the number and the deposit, and then they came up.
And so then this goes into, somebody writes a legitimate offer with a fair price or a good price, and it was probably workable for your client, but there was this referential offer that said we'll go higher. Did you then circle back to the original offer and say, look, yes, you did. Okay. Because this is where it gets into that whole idea of, and again, it's the seller's instructions, but what's fair here and how do you manage these multiple offers? It's a lot going on. Anyway, we're talking about these suggested new guidelines and rules for dealing with offers. And so let's continue on to the next
Okay,
slide.
this is the last one. They advise the government to require sellers to provide an anonymized disclosure to all prospective buyers who submitted an offer once an enforceable contract is in place.
I kind of like this. I mean, I'm never a fan of stuff that provides more paperwork for us as agents because we've already got quite a lot. But I do like this from a buyer's agent perspective because, I mean, how many times do you write an offer where you've been told you're competing and you win it, but you just don't ever know whatever happened?
So
How
what
many?
at minimum this is saying the disclosure should include the number of offers, the representation status of prospective buyers, including the real estate brokerage involved and the sale price. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it'll include the other offer prices.
Well, that's what it has. I think that's what it's talking about, isn't it? Oh, it's just
No.
saying the actual end up sale price. Yeah. Number of offers, representation status. If it sends, that's hard because if it does include other prices, let's say somebody writes $1 million and the asking price was 800,000 and all the other offers were between 800 and 850,000. The the buyer in that case, when they receive this after an unconditional period, might decide they want to go back and try to find a way out of this contract. And they may look to the contract, they may go to their lawyers and say, find me an out. And if that contract wasn't written really, really well, there's a chance they could find it.
Yeah.
So I would be concerned if this was the case. I think the number of offers is really an important piece of information. The actual amount of other offers is not the buyer's business.
I agree. And I think so in a rising market, what you're going to find is you're going to get a number of offers in the market,
Market range, yeah, value.
and then there's going to be one that's going to stick out.
I
That's
call
what
those outliers,
happens.
yeah. Hey, I just want to say, anybody who's watching, feel free to make comments. Do you like some of these suggestions? Do you not like some of these suggestions? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you have suggestions for the government? It's too late. But feel free to make comments, and we'll respond.
So tell me how let's just close this off. How do you handle, so you've got a seller who's willing right now to price their home, I will say sharply. So what do you do?
Okay, so if we're talking about a strategy, I'm representing the seller. I've got that hat on. I'm going to buy some hats that say seller and buyer. So I'm wearing my seller hat.
Fedora, your fedora.
Oh no. I'm wearing my seller hat, and I'm saying, and the seller says, like, okay, what's the strategy here? And I'm explaining that common practice right now is we're gonna, a lot of agents are listing low price, gather momentum, get a number of offers, and choose the best one on offer day. The higher you go towards the actual sale price or expected sale price, or above that, the less people you're going to see through the home and the less chance of actually getting offers. So lower you go, the better and more chance of getting more and better offers. It's sort of an interesting relationship. Anyway, yeah. The point is, I generally advise my sellers, don't list lower than you're willing to accept, because I don't believe in creating churn in the marketplace. And just as much, and I've just seen some interesting comments on some of the different social channels for realtors, where a realtor was complaining that the listing agent, they were saying to our colleagues, saying, hey, don't bring your buyers through a home and expect to get $100,000 off the asking price. Don't just expect this. Don't come through just because you feel like the market's changing. It's not going to happen. It's just rude, and so on and so forth. And the counter argument was, well, then stop listing places also, 100,000 under what you're willing to ask and expect to get, and then get mad when somebody brings a full price offer that's lower than you expected, and you don't accept any of the offers, despite good offers, despite them being, at asking price or even
above.
Don't
underlist the property.
Yeah. So my advice is not to do that. At the same time, list at the lowest you're willing to accept, but no lower. That way you're not creating churn if nobody comes to the table.
Right. Well, what I do is when we are listing properties, I actually call a lot of agents and just see in similar properties what's happening with those other properties. Are you getting a lot of offers? How many people are you doing? What kind of marketing are you getting? And I'm finding, like, for me, it's interesting. I talked specifically regarding my property on Lewis. We just realized that if we listed below a certain price, we'd get more activity than if we listed literally $100 more.
Yeah. Yeah, so, there are definitely thresholds where people just stop.
And we got 3 offers, and we got a sale price around where another listing sold in the area. Yeah. And then there was another listing that was listed higher, and they got asking, and so we listed here and we sold here. The other listing listed here and they sold there.
Yeah, but were they the same unit in the same building or something? Like, it's hard to say whether you're getting higher or lower value.
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
They weren't in the same building, but Anyway, it involves a lot of trust with your agent to do that, and takes guts, because everybody was nervous that they weren't going to get what they wanted. And in the end, we had a very happy seller and a very happy buyer.
I do see, and I think this is a conversation that is being had more and more with sellers, and I see it happening quite often. Is somebody lists a home at a price, it's low, it's designed to attract multiple offers, and that strategy fails for whatever reason. Maybe they do get offers, but they accept a conditional offer, that offer falls apart. But whatever the case, they come to the point where they actually haven't sold for the price they were hoping to get up to from where they started. And so they just take the property off market, relist it at the price they are going to negotiate from. So there's like an initial listing period and strategy, and then they relist it later on if that strategy didn't work. And this is the
Yeah.
thing, with real estate, you're always testing, trying, changing. Things are changing so rapidly. What had worked in the past may not work tomorrow.
Well,
And
also
Jane,
I find that people, sellers, no, buyers perceive that agents are really steering the market. And I don't believe that. What's happening is sellers are trying to steer the market. That's why we're seeing properties now where they're being listed up here, because they're seeing what other properties have sold for. What they didn't realize was that the listings were actually coming in here and the sales were coming higher, because the buyers still have the perspective that if we have a listing, that I'm expected to pay a bit more. Sellers are now going, well, I want to make sure I get that price. And
yeah,
buyers are going, I don't think so, because now there's
yeah,
a gap happening.
exactly. Market value has been slowly going up over time in the past, and then people were bidding and making offers higher and kept pulling it up. But it reaches a point where there's a bit of an equilibrium, and every once in a while there's an outlier. There's also now under, and that's where people are now listing. They're saying, well, I listed here and I'm expecting to get this, but that's what was happening, sometime in the past, but not now, not the same way.
So list here. Just list reasonably, and provide all the information up front. That's exactly what the government's
Lower the
saying.
hurdles,
Give
provide the
people time
information,
to do their
and
give
just
people
expect
time to
maybe
do
you're
their
going to
due
be on
diligence.
market a little longer than that you were in the past. Like people have become to feeling entitled to, have their home sold in a week, and those days are maybe coming to an end.
Yeah.
So there was a time where it could sometimes take 6 months to sell a decent home in an area that maybe didn't have high demand, which is frustrating. But to go back to the very, very beginning of our talk today, that's going to be that kind of market where somebody will be well served to accept a subject to sale offer at that point.
So let's just
Yeah, let's talk about this. So back to that advice from the BCFSA. This is the same stuff, just in a timeline to show like this is how it's going to look in terms of timeline. So there's that 5-day up at the beginning. There's that 5-day period for marketing, providing all the proper documents and so forth. So during that 5-day pre-offer period, people have some time to do their due diligence in advance. They're going to be provided all of the legislated information. There's additional information that we realtors will provide. And at that point, after that 5 days, that's when it opens up to offers. And if one comes in then and is accepted at some point after that 5-day period, that's where the cooling off period then begins. Once that's expired, there is maybe more time, depending on what was in the contract, for additional negotiations. For additional negotiations, and then of course at some point they either waive and remove their conditions, or they say no, I'm not going to proceed. And at that point, who knows what happens with that fee. And then there's those disclosures, that enhanced disclosure we talked about for now that you've agreed to buy it, all the other potential buyers will be receiving, I think, that disclosure, plus the seller would, the winning buyer will receive that disclosure.
I just want to say this is, first of all, it's very small. I had to put on my glasses.
Right?
But the other thing is, this is what is being recommended to the government. Who knows if they do this or not? I don't know.
Yes. So again, what we're going to see in the end is going to be something that's going to be a hybrid of this or some adaptation of this. I don't think they'll just take it all in as written, but this has been put together also in a way. What's always interesting is this is designed to work all together, I would say. So if you just have a 3-day cooling off period without a pre-offer period, is it going to make it a lot less? Is it going to take a lot of the teeth out of it?
And quite honestly, a lot of this is already happening every day right now with realtors who are trying to provide people with the opportunity to do their investigations, to read the documents before they get they make the decision to purchase a property. We do have Leo here who's saying, does the disclosure of offers come at the start of the cooling off period? We don't know that. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think the advice was that it comes in after the property's unconditional, Leo.
Yeah. Okay, so any new listings coming up for you?
No. Call me. I got these are mistakes. Well, I mean, I may have a condo coming up, but it depends on whether we tie something else up. And other than that, no, I'm primarily working with a lot of active buyers.
Okay. So I've got a new listing coming up. It's going to be in Shawnigan Lake. It is a fully fenced acreage. It is an acre, and it's just off of East Shawnigan Lake Road. And we're just working on the price, going to be coming up next week. And I've got another listing coming up in Colwood Langford area, right along Latoria, and that is going to be around 1.1 million. It's a beautiful 2007 home. Sorry, not 2007, 2012 home, custom built for the builder, and we bought it off the builder. Really nice property. And so that's 4 bedrooms up,
Yep.
and it has a double car garage and lots of additions, including solar power and hookup for EV
Wow.
cars.
Sounds like a decent listing. Sounds like a great place.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So let's tell people how they reach you.
Sure. Well, if you want to reach me, please reach out at 250-360-6106. You can email me info@andrewplank.com. And of course, check out the website, andrewplank.com. That has additional information about Victoria and about myself.
And cool videos.
And some cool videos.
And my name is Jane Johnston. I'm with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. You can reach me at 250-744-0775. My email is briarhillgroup@gmail.com. And you can check me out on 2 websites. Our videos are on vancouverislandtime.com or on briarhillgroup.com, where you'll find out about buying and selling. And we also invite you to check us out every Monday at 10 a.m. We are here on this social channel, so please subscribe.
Thanks, everybody. Good talk today, Jane. Interesting stuff. We'll see what comes out of the government. Hopefully they make some announcements and bring some clarity soon.
Okay, so next Monday we're going to be doing a full review of what's been happening in the May market. And do you have a newsletter people can subscribe to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a MailChimp newsletter. I haven't put that up there, actually. I guess I should do that. But email me and just say subscribe, info@andrewplank.com, and I'll put you up on my newsletter. Once a month we come up. Thanks, Josh. Once a month I put out the monthly stats and then my take on what's going on in the market, maybe a little bit of personal information, but mostly like what's been happening in the market and a little synopsis and so forth. So it's a fun little newsletter. I hope you will subscribe. Thanks, Jane.
And he's taken, by the way. Just kidding. I also have a newsletter if people want to subscribe. You can just go to briarhillgroup.com and click on subscribe. All righty. Sorry.
You can find Jane on her Tinder profile She's taken 2.
I had a client sign me up for Tinder once.
Are you kidding me? That's hilarious. Okay, that's for another day. Let's tell this story another day. Okay, thanks everybody for watching.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye.